Good morning. This is June 5th, 2019 AD, and I'm about an hour behind doing this little impromptu video. Fell into some technical difficulties, and that's just what happens. But put me behind schedule here a little bit. But this is this is important, and I guess I needed to do this morning. So what we're looking at here is the Drudge Report. And if you're not familiar with the Drudge Report, it's a news aggregate site. It's kind of generic looking. It's just I don't know that they had pictures years ago very often, but you just have three columns and basically just hyperlinks, that are titled. It's quite simple in its design, but this is massively popular around the world. Okay. And if you already know this, great, bear with me. Okay. So the Drudge Report is run by a fella named Matt Drudge. And it's kind of worth knowing, I was always told when I was a little boy by my mom, consider the source. She'd usually tell me that in context of, when I was being put down or bullied or things like that and I never understood what she meant. Consider the source. And so what it means is you kind of need to know where things are really originating from and who they're coming from originally. Sometimes it really helps to understand that. So I don't know this guy, but he's been running this site since 1995, and it's massively it's influential. It's influential. It's read around the world. It's like the biggest news aggregate site. So I had a friend who, conservative guy who used to read this religiously, probably still does. And I remember him telling me about it. I went and checked it out, and I just thought, what's the big deal, Well, somewhere along the line, I started, this is pretty on point with the things that are going on that we're told about. Let's put it that way. These are, again, it's just something that is paid attention to around the world by so many people. It's influential, which in a sense is questionable. So anyway, let's take a moment before I go through this, because what I'm going to do this morning is I just want to talk about this, and I may do this on a periodic basis, this page, the site. So let's go over here and look. So, I'm not going to read this all to you, but I want to show you a couple things. The Drudge Report started in 1995 as a gossip column. Okay. Focusing on Hollywood and Washington, D.C. And I would say it still does. And I would say it kind of still is a gossip column. Maybe not so much gossip. I don't know what it was like back in those days, but today it's very much like a tabloid. And when I mean tabloid, I mean when you're standing in line behind the woman with all kinds of sugary cereals and Pop-Tarts and Coca-Colas and all this kind of things, and three kids who can't keep themselves off of grabbing the candy and tugging at her skirt, and you can tell she's exhausted and snapping at them with dark circles under the eyes, and she doesn't even know why her children are behaving this way and why nothing she does seems to work, and she's at her wit's end. And those children are well, this is just a disaster. That's gonna the trajectory is not good. So anyways, you're standing behind a person like that, and you look to your left because you just can't bear to watch all that nonsense, and you see the National Enquirer or the Sun or things like that. That's a tabloid. And you look at the titles, and they're usually prurient or sensational or bizarre or things like that. I'm telling you, the Drudge Report is on par with the tabloid. However, it's taken seriously, and the stories that are featured sort of direct the consciousness of many people. Um, so anyway, let's continue here. So Matt Drudge began the email-based newsletter from an apartment in Hollywood, California. This is important, using his connections with the industry and media insiders to break stories. So how did he? Who is he? This was 95. I don't think he's that old. We could probably find out how old he is real quickly. Uh, so it started 24 years ago. Well, let's forget that from now. But look at this. His connections with industry and media insiders to break stories sometimes before they hit the mainstream media. And that's huge. That's what journalists want to make their career on, break a story. I'm not saying he's a journalist. He's a website creator. He's a gossip columnist, or was. Anyway, so in the early days, he maintained the website from his home in Miami Beach, Florida, with the help from assistants and da 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 da. So he had an apartment in Hollywood, California. That's probably not too cheap, and he's got connections with industry and media insiders. Wow. So then he's he maintained the website from his home in Miami Beach, Florida. And I don't know where he lived, but I think he might still live there, last I recollect. But that's not cheap. So does he have two homes? Did he? Does he? I don't know. But anyway, his first assistant was Andrew Breitbart. You might be familiar with him. He died of a alleged heart attack walking home from a restaurant right before he was announced he was going to break these stories on Obama back a couple years ago. So anyway, Breitbart, who described himself as Matt Drudge's bitch. Nice, right? Nice. Worked the afternoon shift at the Drudge Report, sometime running his own website, sometimes at the same time as running his own website, Breitbart.com. Okay, not going to go much farther in this, and I haven't read all this or anything. I just actually thought, well, I'm gonna go through the Drudge Report this morning in a certain way, the way I prefer to look at the news, but I don't always. But I'm going to today, and I want to say that Matt Drudge is a homosexual. Okay, he's a gay man. How gay is he? I don't know. He's really, really private. That's something he's known for, and you got to wonder why about that to a degree. He's politically right leaning. Okay, well, is he? Is he really? Maybe that's why he's so private. I don't know. I'm just thinking it through. I am. I'm just talking out loud, and sometimes talking out loud, you can think things through. So anyway, Andrew Breitbart, let's look at his picture here, was his assistant, and then he became a big name, and his website's still big. Is a conservative website. Okay, it's right up there with what's his name, Glenn Beck, and that kind of thing. Fox News stuff, whatever. Anyway, he described himself as Matt Drudge's bitch. Well, I don't know that I would ever. Listen. I don't know anything about Andrew Breitbart's sexual orientation or anything like that, but that's curious. I didn't know that until this morning. That's very curious. Matt Drudge's bitch. That's kind of creepy. That's a creepy story, isn't it? Would you? Let's say you're a man. Would you describe yourself as some homosexual's bitch? If you weren't, really? If you weren't a homosexual yourself? That's kind of weird. Okay, well, without getting into the things about homosexuals, because maybe you are one, or believe yourself to be one, and it's just another besetting sin. It's well, there's more to it than that, but that's not the subject of this morning. I'll close that, okay? But at any rate, consider the source. That's where I started. We're going to look at the Drudge Report, or as I titled the video, the Sludge Report. Now think about that. Biggest news site in the world, and it's like a tabloid, and it's sludge. it's given an air of legitimacy because it talks about things that seem to be like headline important, DC stuff, District of Columbia. It's another subject. Let's take a look at it. Let's go through a few layers here, right? So first of all, what are the subtext messages we're getting here? ISIS, terror, and Ebola zone. Okay, now we got ISIS, terror, and Ebola. Well, we've all been subjected here in these United States to an Ebola scare that just disappeared all of a sudden one day, just as it appeared. Ebola. So we know that's this disease that eats you from the inside out. Basically, it liquefies you from the inside out, and terrorized everyone that it's coming over here. And anyway, ISIS, terror. Okay, terror. Fear. Right. In fact, I don't have my screenwriter. I actually wanted to do that here. Let me check real quick here, just a moment, because that might help. No, I don't see it. So I just I had these other issues and I kind of forgot to make sure I had something because I was going to write by each one of these things, fear. Okay. But we can just do it. I think you're smart enough to follow along. ISIS, terror, fear. Iran, 6 months away from atomic bomb, fear. Web shutdowns across the world. I don't know. I don't know if we should be afraid of that. Okay, Americans now spending more time on the devices and watching TV. So I'm not going to read all these headlines, but I'm going to pull a few of them out, okay? Let's see here. Okay. Well, those are the top ones there. Now, usually, this is an interesting one. Record smash, New York City townhouse sells for $80 million. That's a little bit almost tabloidish, why that's the headline today, I don't know why. I haven't read the article or anything. We'll get into that. So hackers try to tell you what you're typing just by hearing you type. Fear. Mind reading chips send thoughts to computer. That's arguably fear. Some of these could be interpreted as fear depending on who you are. Straight pride parade in Boston. Well, if you're homosexual like Matt Drudge, that might make you afraid, guys, because that's their thing. Gay pride. All right, LBABCQLMNOP pride. Okay. Anyway, so my point is that there's a fear factor that's always peppered in here. And guess what else is peppered in here? A lot of pure, you know the word, lascivious stories. Okay, that's one thing that I think his perversions are showing, whatever they are. One thing, and the tabloid quality of the Sludge report is you will find strange articles in almost every daily update of the Drudge report. You're going to find, I mean, it's updated continuously throughout the day, but generally there's a main headline for, in the morning or something like this. And some articles will stay for a day. Some will kind of filter down through a day or two, and then they, get cycled out. But you'll find, and again, I'm telling you this because it's important to look at the layers here. So in the midst of all these things that draw people in, this is you're going to get the latest news, and it's like a serious news website where you're going to get what's important. You can trust them to tell you what you need to know, right? I mean, that's what they're all running on. It's like, this is what you need to know. And in there, you find lots of little links to things like this, okay? Kind of silly things. A man arrested for covering sleeping girlfriend in ketchup. Here you go, though. Foreplay with handgun turns deadly during sex act. Okay, there you go. There may be more in here about that are like this, but it almost, as long as I've been watching for this, it hasn't failed. This, I don't know if he must still have assistants, but they're searching the world for some little seedy thing that does what? Well, like the water drop torture, right? Every day, people who read this, they're scanning through. One of these days, they're going to see a headline or title that just trips their trigger, and they're going off into some place that broken focus, getting taken to some website with uh, lots of little sidebars that have other prurient types of images and source and stories and things like this. So this is really subtle, but it's important. And that's manipulation, and it's creepy. It's like, is this a news site or a tabloid? Well, I don't think they would. I think they might equivocate, or they'd waffle a bit, probably in an answer to that, or maybe give you something like a both type of answer. But this is creepy, okay? And this isn't even the creepiest. This is really, but even right here, foreplay with a handgun turns deadly during sex act. Okay, well, what kind of foreplay could you do with the handgun? And you start thinking this through. I mean, it doesn't even take long. This is pretty uh unseemly, you know? Aren't you better than that? Where's your nobility? Where's your dignity as a human being? I mean, I'm not saying that. Look, I'm as interested in the weirdness of the world as anybody else. But let's just analyze this a little bit. Let's think it through. So, okay, again, this is not really scripted. I just wanted to talk about it as I'm having my coffee, and because it's something, every time I go to the site, I notice things like this, and when I look at news, and I would tell you that it's in your best interest to not really read the news. If it's important, you'll hear about it one way or the other. Just take a step back, and then take another step back, and you'll get to know what you need to know. Um, protect your heart, right? Protect your mind. Uh, Ask me how I know. This can lead you into these kind of things, can lead you into all kinds of, it can really sour your day, you know. But one thing that helps when you hear all the filth of the world, and most of it is filth, they aren't bringing you good news. They may put a cherry on top of a pile of dung at the very end with one little 15-second good news story at the end of the nightly news or something like that. I mean, if you still watch that kind of thing. Um, but anyway, so let's look through a few things here. ISIS terror and Ebola zone. I think we just heard recently that wasn't ISIS defeated. Okay, obviously that's a lot of mind control. It's sort of like they're defeated, now they're headline. Okay, I mean, look, when it's at the top, even though it's still in, a lot of times they'll highlight these in red. This one's not in red, but here it is. Your eye is going to fall to this top one. It's all in capitals too. Okay, not all of them are in capitals. Notice that. Okay, capitals. ISIS terror and Ebola zone. That's a loaded sentence. Okay. Iran 6 months away from atomic bomb. Okay. Um, so let's look at this here. Smollett returning to Empire. Well, I've never seen that show, but you'd have to have your head in the sand. I've never heard about this little scandal with this little fool. And I don't mean to call someone a fool lightly. This is very deceived individual on many levels. And if you know anything about this story, but I guess it is important at this point because of what's gone on with the justice system in the town of Chicago. But it's sort of entertainment news in a way. Okay, so let's move on down here. Um, Here's a picture of a roller coaster. Fed chief pivots on interest rates. Okay, more uncertainty, economic uncertainty, right? Fed chief. Okay. Well, is actually called a chair, not a chief. Okay, you can call him whatever you want. Fed boss, Fed chief, he's a chair. He's supposed to be a chair. Fed. One thing they never tell you, you'll never see an article in here about what the Federal Reserve is. It's a bank that's not a government agency, but it's called the Federal Reserve. You maybe familiar with this. You've probably heard the expression Federal Reserve Bank is about as federal as Federal Express. So it's mind control built right in here. Okay. Trump Queen celebrate freedom, sovereignty. All right, let's jump over here for a minute. Look at this. What do you think that bouquet costs? Bouquet. Look at these jewels, right? Who knows how much this dress costs? I'm sure if there's not another one like it in the world, handmade. Her tiara, her crown, one of her many bejeweled crowns. And here's the American president yucking it up with her. Well, I'm sure it's important to have good relations with foreign dignitaries and heads of state and things like this. But I'm very now. I've been to England. Let me tell you, been to England. I'd like to go back in a sense, but I also kind of don't. It's really shocking to me whenever there's an event with the quote unquote royals, whatever it is, new baby, new wedding, new scandal, health issues, you name it. They're basically American celebrities, right? And that's just in America or United States. What about England? It's disgusting. I've seen people get into little scuffles online about the Queen and the royals of England, and it's just a horrible thing. And if I need to expound upon that, then you're probably too dumb to really be watching this, because that's not who we this anyway. I'm kind of fumbling for words here, but so we're having a royal banquet. Okay. There she is again. Pay attention to these little symbols here. Okay. Look at her medallion here, this cross. So anyway, where am I going with this? This is incredible wealth, pomp, and circumstance. Okay. Now let's just juxtapose that with this headline over here. Here you have these folk dining sumptuously, celebrating freedom and sovereignty. Well, whose sovereignty? Hers? Homelessness jumps 16% in LA. Officials stunned. These people look really stunned. Okay. Unprecedented poverty manifesting itself. 59,000 live on the streets. Well, that's just in one city. Look at their picture. Okay. That's just in one city in the United States. In fact, I was, at the gym, and I just caught a brief headline. I was listening to something else on my earphones, and on the television across the gym, I saw the subtitles about a local little town here, how the homeless camp is basically pretty much eliminated. This is a little town. Okay. They had a homeless camp. How many homeless camps are there around the country? A few. So I spent some time in Georgia, and I remember finding out that at this one intersection near the Lowe's, behind the Lowe's, there's a little grove of woods and things like this, and you'd always see people standing there with signs, anything helps, that kind of thing. You've seen it, and turns out there's a homeless camp in the woods back there, and you may not know they're there, but when you see people standing around with signs, there's probably a homeless camp somewhere, people living in a tent, if they have that even. Okay. Anyway, my point is that, these people like this who come out, I'm a little unfocused, I think, this morning, who come out, and listen, don't get me wrong. I'm all for wealth, get rich if you can, prosper in health, prosper in money, right? And no doubt there's ostensibly charities that she's involved with and things like this. But she's, first of all, if you know the history of this family, they've usurped. They're still usurping, and they hijacked this country. And one could say, to the victors go the spoils. But look, if you're still getting excited about the news about their new babies and their outfits and their whatever, you're lost. You're lost as a soul, and you're lost as an American, and you need to think about that. Okay. Okay, so let's move on. um it's not exactly where I wanted to go with this little video. Young royals deny photo op. Okay. You really want to spend 10 minutes of your life and go read an article like this? Okay. So one of the things that goes on with mind control is the art of misdirection. You can get into thinking that everything on here is important by lots of silly stuff being mixed in with things that maybe are important, or breaking, important kind of news updates. Keep in touch with what's going on. Ivanka takes center stage. We could go into in depth on that. Ivanka Trump, President Donald Trump's daughter, very beautiful woman, if she's a woman. Um, let's just assume she is. Very beautiful woman, not elected. Not elected. But who are all these gentlemen sitting there, American flags? Let's just take a quick look. Daily Mail. Ivanka enters the world stage. Well, this is like not news. She's been on the world stage since he was running, practically. Companies are filed with Theresa May. Here she is sitting with real power brokers. And look at this picture here. She's at the table. You've heard the expression, when you are at the table about something. What's really her qualification? She's gotten into some of his businesses, and maybe he trusts her. She elected. What kind of influence is she having? He's ostensibly a conservative president, build the wall, all this kind of stuff. She's notoriously Jewish and liberal. Now, it was said she's converted to Judaism, but I believe her mother is Jewish, and the way it works in Judaism, if your mom's a Jew, then you're born a Jew. There's Bolton, Mr. Warmonger. She's sitting right next to the war hawk. This is something very. It ought to really people be marching in the streets. What is she? Who is she? We didn't elect her. Okay. This is nepotism. Shots fly ahead of first Dem debate. Candidates beg for $1. Warren pledges platform of economic patriotism. Okay, sounds like a mind control word. I do think this video is probably a little bit boring, because I wore myself out for an hour and a half having some technical things I had to work with. Socialism. Tempers flare as oil-rich Venezuela rations gas at the pumps. Now let's look at this. Tempers flare as oil-rich Venezuelan rations gas at pumps. Think about that. It's a socialist country. They're having all kinds of problems. Oil-rich, but they're rationing gas at the pumps. Now, you weren't around in the 70s, most likely, to experience that. That happened here for a time, but most of us don't really know what that's like. Can you imagine? You've got to wait in line for hours, possibly, and when you do get gas, you can only get a little bit. And they're sitting on, one of the biggest oil reserves. I mean, they're an oil-rich country, okay? So juxtapose this, which by the way, it is juxtaposed with this. Let's see. Maybe I lost it. Nope, I'm confusing this with another topic. So first of all, I've seen a poll like this, but I thought this was it. But over 75% of college students support abortion, in most or all cases. I thought this. I was thinking it was socialism, but it's abortion. Okay. First of all, let's talk about socialism for a second. There's this is again, I'm only getting into it now, and I really had more to say about these kind of things and how to interpret the news. So when you see the word socialism, basically it means that everyone has one purse. Okay, so let's think about what the word says. When I say the word, I'm talking about the the word of God, right? In Proverbs it says, "My son, if sinners entice you, consent thou not. If they say, 'Come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Let's swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance.'" So they want, they're looking to rob. "We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in your lot among us. Let us all have one purse." Every time they're wanting you to buy into a program like this, they're saying, "Cast in your lot among us." And they're not asking you. Okay, they're telling you, we're going to, at the point of the gun, and to a big degree in this country and in many countries, we are at the point of the gun to cast in our lot among these people who want us to have one purse. And of course, they are really holding the purse string. They're the ones that can dip into the purse and do what they want with their programs or their salaries and things like that, right? So the Lord says, walk not in the way with them. Don't go that way. Refrain your foot from their path, for their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. Now we've seen this through the last century in particular, communism, socialism, the millions that it ends up killing. Why does it end up killing them? Well, several reasons, but one is that they're robbing people, and when people lose everything, they lose it. And when they start protesting in the street and the state has to control this, they bring in the guns. And then what happens? Well, blood in the street. Blood in the street in the town of Chicago. Blood in the street in the town of New Haven. Blood in the streets of LA. Okay? So socialism, tempers flare, it's over there. First of all, it's over there. All right. Gonorrhea and over 65 surging. STD superbug infection soar. Oh, that's good news. Well, it really shouldn't bother you too much if you're monogamous and married, because you're really not sleeping around. But I think what's interesting is the over 65s part. Well, this is going to be the generation from the 60s, right? Is gonorrhea surging? Well, why? Okay, well, it's pretty easy. You've got apps these days like Tinder and Grindr. I guess that's the gay one, where they, people do hookups and things like this. So, somebody over 65, they got money. All it takes really is a couple lascivious fellas to sleep with a prostitute or a call girl or an escort or something like that, which there are more and more of those, it seems. I don't know the count, but with the advent of Craigslist, and they kind of shut that down a bit, but these apps and things like this, that prostitution is, in fact, I thought I saw an article about that. Let's see here, because I scanned this earlier. Maybe that was yesterday. There's more. Maybe it'll turn up. Okay. The point being is that gonorrhea, and well, you know what? You sleep around, you're gonna likely catch an STD, because you've heard it said, if you sleep with someone, you've slept with everyone they've slept with, and it multiplies out, and it doesn't take long to basically mean that you've basically opened up your personal system to hundreds of people who maybe travel the world. Maybe they're sex tourists in Thailand or Cambodia, and you just don't know. Some Asian junk that's going around, from some cheap trick. Some of you will get that. So at any rate, that's disgusting. So, wash your hands. Be careful sitting on toilet seats. Cleanliness is next to godliness, right? So unclean, very unclean. Okay, Trump tweeter tantrum. Schumer's creep. Bette Midler washed up psycho. Well, that's really presidential. So here's this guy sitting, like a king, as an American president over there. next to Queen being chummy. And he's a this is what you call now I'm going to use some language here a little bit. This is what you call a shitstorm or shit show, excuse me. This is a shit show. I don't care if you voted for Trump. You know, I, if you're offended and you're not in touch with reality, tantrum. Now remember, Drudge supposed to be conservative. He's basically showing a little bit liberal colors here. Tantrum. That's derogatory. It's a pejorative in a way to say somebody, a 70-year-old man or however old he is, throws a tantrum. Well, that's basically saying he's like a child. Well, it kind of does act like that. Now, this is what you would say is undignified, unpresidential. Um, it's really embarrassing. And I'm of the mind that it's on purpose. This guy is not an individual. You don't get to be a billionaire without getting into bed with people in a town like New York of one way or another. Okay. This guy is not just this rogue maverick, independent person who's just nobody can control him. He's everything but independent. All right. He is absolutely controlled. So this is, how do I know he's controlled? Well, one of your tells is the other day when he shockingly tweeted something about, Iran will cease to exist. That's crazy to just tweet something out like that. That's a veiled threat. But why would he do that? Who does that mean he's working for? Well, who wants to destroy Iran? Okay. You know the answer. So that means he's working for who? Okay. You know that answer too, right? All right. So let's move on here. Let's see. Bond film Rocked by Blast. I don't know what that is, but Bond film, that's entertainment stuff. And, you got Keisha over here. I jumped over here again. Keisha rids world of rich white straight men on new track. That's arguably news because there's a lot of these threads of racial division, which is quite on purpose. Keisha, let's look at this. Let's look at this character. This is Keisha. I've never listened to her stuff. And I would say to you, if you're a parent, you own your house, you rent your apartment, whatever it is, you're the head. If your children own any of this stuff, listen to any of this stuff, march right in there today, get it, and destroy it. Throw it in the garbage, burn it, make a show of it in front of your child, explain to them why you're doing this, and if they protest, you've got more work to do. It's just that simple. If they protest and cry, if they slam their door, if they're angry at you, and you incite their rebellion that's against you and against everything, really, because that's what this woman is all about. She's sowing rebellion. Oh, look at this little finger, giving you the finger, dressed like a slovenly, disgusting person. And, she's celebrated. That's what celebrity means, right? Celebrated. Is your child's allowance going to this? Let's see what she says here. She imagines a new world order. You've heard that before. If you are a boy who loves a boy, you'll get a wedding cake and all. And if you're a lady and you do your lady work, I don't know what that means, then you will make as many dollars as the boys, not just 2/3. Then she uses a child tune, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wish the world was different, or who you love and who you are was nobody's effing business. Well, so this is like pro gay marriage, pro whatever, really pro anything. So when they say who you love and who you are, it isn't just about homosexuality. This goes for bestiality, pederasty, you name it. Now, if I shocked you and you're like, you don't know what you're talking about, and we aren't, let's say you're a homosexual and you're watching this and you're saying that's not what we think. well, then you don't even know who you are in that community. Excuse me. See, I didn't mean to say it like that. You don't know the community, who, what the underpinnings are and where it's really going, you know, and or what you don't know who you are a part of. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't know who you are a part of when, and I suggest that you think about it and look into it, because this is where it's going and this is what it means. All right. I make assertions. Yeah, I do. It's okay. I don't have time to educate you, any more than I'm doing, really. In fact, I'm kind of getting crunched for time. Um, so here we go. We just came back to this picture here. There's Mr. Charles Prince. He's a prince, really. So look at all these medals, right? All these medals. What's that cross mean? You know, we could zoom in a little bit. It's not important, but there's a lot of symbols and all of these things. And who is this guy? What's he all about? There's his mistress. I don't know if they're married now or not. Camilla Bowles is her name, and he was adult. He's an adulterer. He had a beautiful wife, and Princess Diana, and I think he was, from what I understand, he was, this was his connection, really. Anyway, that's an aside. Let's move on. Okay. Update: quake swarm unleashes 40 tiny temblors in Southern California. So again, I'm far afield from what I really intended to do with this video, but it's important to remember that the times we're living in, and that's what this is all about. That's why I'm doing these creepy campfire stories, because we need to know what's going on. So in Matthew 24, the disciples came to Jesus and they asked him, and that's not his name, by the way, Jesus. That's another topic. So it came to Jesus and they said, when are you going to come back? What's the sign of the end of the world? And he said to him, first off, take heed that no man deceive you. And that's what we're doing here today. Okay. That's really important that you understand that's what these videos are about. That's what a lot of my posts that I've made over the years have been about, is taking heed that no man deceive you. No man. Not Donald Trump, not your pastor, not your school teacher, not your professor, not your admissions counselor for college, not your guidance counselor, whatever, not your mother and father, not your children, right? Kids first. The big thing on license plates at one point, maybe still is. Kids first. Really? You're going to let your children run your life, run your world? Well, hey, a lot of people do. A lot of people do. You've seen it, So take heed that no man deceive you, So anyway, how does this relate to earthquakes? Well, if you go on, he says, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and deceive many. Well, we see that's another topic. And you'll hear of wars and rumors of wars. What's this? Iran 6 months away from atomic bomb. Sort of a rumor of war. It's a little, isn't it? Right? Web shutdown could be arguably a rumor of war. What's that all about? So there's, you'll see that you're going to find rumors of wars all the time. Here's one. Russian fighter conducted unsafe intercept of Navy surveillance plane. Now, it's not directly like the heads of state talking about going to war with each other, but there's undertones. I always say, I use this all the time, is a way to frame things. Context is everything. Okay. Context is everything. And so is subtext. So there's a subtext. You read this stuff, you don't think it's your subconscious, if there is such a thing, your inner soul, what's deep down, isn't being affected by all this uncertainty and all this, the world's like out of control and on the brink. What's it doing to your health? What's it doing to your smile every day? What's it doing to your feeling towards your neighbor? Think about it. So anyway, let's go on back to earthquakes, okay? So you'll hear of wars and rumors of wars, and see that you're not troubled. So here's a command from the Son of God, is that to take heed, to like what we're doing. Don't be troubled by it. make sure that you're not troubled. That's your job. You have a job to, if you're troubled by these things, even if, like, I'm asking you to look in your soul, if you are troubled by the state of the world, other than just a, a general, like, kind of a, a bit of a grief for, the world's not a paradise, really. I mean, it is and it isn't, you know what I mean? So it's just a lot of trouble in the world, but we're not to have trouble in our hearts. So we need to keep our heart with all diligence. Now, I'm the first to tell you, I'll be first in line. Guilty. I don't do that all the time. And maybe I'll do this every day for a little while. Maybe I will. I think I might. I do this every day. It's a good, how you go back to the gym and you start going every day and you just make yourself do it every day and you actually start feeling better and being in better shape. I'll do that. You don't have to watch it. Nobody has to watch this. It doesn't matter. So anyway, for all these things must come to pass, but it's not the end yet. I guess it'll be the end when it's the end. It's not the end yet. So nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there'll be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse and various places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Well, I don't know what that means exactly, the beginning of sorrows, how long that's going to go on. But we've been having a lot of earthquake issues for a long time. And I know the argument, what's always been going on? There's always been earthquakes. Well, yeah, but there's been an acceleration. I think there's, and you can say, well, this is only since it's been reporting, so we don't know. Okay, man, but you've got to look at things as everything is a series of facts surrounded by circumstances. So you look at the wars, you look at the rumors of wars, you look at the earthquakes, the pestilence, right? So I don't think I read anything about pestilences lately, but there's a passage about similar to this where there's pestilence, going like throughout the earth. So we got Ebola, we got the measles, we've got all these things going on. We got a lot of pestilence going on right here in these United States. United States. I think I should start saying it like that. But anyway, let's move on. So, again, this is about when you read the news, are you putting it in the proper context? Like, there's the message to you that, it's just everything's uncertain, unstable, the ground's quaking. Or do you remember, I shouldn't let my heart be troubled, that the Lord's coming back. And this is really just saying, keep looking up. Okay. So tropical disturbance, 6 inches on Houston. I guess if there was issues with flooding in Houston in the last couple of years, so I don't really know what to make of that other than, so back to the homelessness jumped 16%, unprecedented poverty, 59,000 live on the streets, and then you have, we just stand by and watch Trump fly over there and dine sumptuously and all kinds of pomp and circumstance. And I mean, what does it all cost? What is the Air Force One flying to England and for him to eat well and meet with this criminal? What does it all cost? He gave up his salary, I think, which, that was generous, right? But if you were president in the era of Skype and, teleconference calls and all these things, let him come to us. This country is trillions and trillions of dollars in debt and to people like her, by the way. So, anyhow, let's move on. Okay. Pregnant McDonald's manager assaulted and McChicken rage. What'd I tell you? Tabloid. Okay. Taco Bell customer calls cops after restaurant runs out of taco shells. You really want to spend 20 minutes reading these articles in your life? Okay. Tabloid, art of misdirection, time wasters. Let me tell you something. It's a proverb. He who wastes is a brother to him that destroys. Beware of people wasting our time. Don't waste people's time, and don't let people waste your time. And you don't have to be rude about it, but I'm talking in this case, it's like, you don't have to read stuff even if it seems interesting. I mean, believe me, I click on plenty of things like this that are just like I always feel like, why did I do that? Like, why did I eat those potato chips? It's the same thing. It's like, why did I waste precious time, my precious time, um, on reading garbage like that, which is, put up here. Why? It's almost like, you look at the ingredients on the back of your food, and you see all these fillers in there. It's fillers. It's also stuff to poison you, and make no mistake about it. It's not, everything's on purpose. Okay. Romney's maiden speech. Don't want to get into that. That's another topic. Let's see. Mexico draws a red line on asylum, holding back 250,000 migrants. Okay, mind control word. They're not migrants. It's an invasion. It's a Catholic invasion. It's a socialist invasion. It's all kinds of things. But we can easily just forget to, every time you hear the word migrant or immigrant, illegal immigrant, excuse me, these are thought-stopping words, and they need to be challenged at every turn. Language is important. It's very important. They know it. Quote unquote, they know it. That's why they do this. But do you know it? Are you dumb? Are you dumb enough to let them tell you how to talk about things? Right? You call your children kids. Most of you call them your kids and don't think about it. You know what a kid is? It's a goat. Okay? Start using the word child and children, and notice the difference. Just do it for a week. Just catch yourself. Every time you say kid or kids, start saying child or children, and you'll feel a power in that. And you'll start to see that that's like a one penny word that devalues your child. And it's on purpose, by the way. It's on purpose. If you don't think it's on purpose, you're really dumb. You don't know what's going on in the world. You don't know what's going on. And maybe I can shake you up a little bit. Maybe I can't. And that's too bad. I liken this kind of thing to running around a morgue and telling people to wake up. Who's the crazy one? I mean, I am. I'd be the crazy one, right? So anyway, let's move on. NBA ratings down sharply. Who cares? Well, lots of people care. That's the problem. Okay, culture wars. Golden Gate coach wears gun control shirt. Let's see. I'm kind of getting. I need to get going, and I didn't really accomplish what I came to accomplish here. Let's see. Oh, here's one. 75% of college students support abortion in most or all cases. Now think about that. You're sending your children there, right? So 3 out of 4 of their friends. Now you think about this. So I'm at the age where a lot of my people I went to school with, they have children that are entering college or in college, and they think it's the right thing to do. Let's send our child to the university and hope to get in a good school. It almost seems like the better the school, the worse off they're going to be, in the sense of what the agendas are. So universe, making of one word, of one mind, one order. So they go there and they make these children, they turn them into young adults of the same mind. Okay. They don't teach them to think. If you think they teach them to think, you're dumb. Again, you're stupid. And you need to know you're stupid before you can ever get smart. It's a bit of a humbling thing. It's like, I don't know something, so I got to go find out. So when you realize you don't know, that universe means they're making of one mind, and you send your children there, and then you find out that 75% of college students support abortion. That means that if you raised your child in a way that doesn't believe this, and maybe they don't believe this, because not all of them do, right? So they go there. What are they up against? Already they're a minority. They're marginalized, possibly. They're going to be peer pressured. They might have to rethink their values. They're going to rebel against you, all these kinds of things. Really, why are they going to college? What's more important, them to get a good job or to, save their soul, right? And so anyhow, let's see, what does God say about it, right? In Job, he says, did not he that made me in the womb make him? And did not one fashion us in the womb? What's that mean? Well, it means God made, Job saying that God was made him in the womb. Okay. In Psalms, it says, "For you have possessed my reins; you've covered me in my mother's womb." So the psalmist, is talking about being formed in his mother's womb. He says, I'll praise you. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows right well. My substance wasn't hid from you when I was made in secret. What's that mean? Made in the womb. And he goes on to say, curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. I mean, formed in darkness, the darkness of the womb. And, these people, what's this also tell? What's the other message? They don't have any of the word of God in them. They don't have even the sense, or if they do, they've thrown it off. They reject it, or they think it's just a fable or just an ancient book that's just, Jesus was a good man. That's all. Yeah, he's okay. But it's nothing to really pay attention to. But there's truth in this, okay? It's just terrible. This is American college. Let's look at the article real quick. There's Breitbart again. Look at these people, So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 11, 12, 13. Let's just call it 12. So 8 of these people support abortion. Out of 10,000. So that means 7,500 of these, 7,500 out of 10,000 college students support abortion. How about that? Considered morally acceptable. Huh. Well, anyway, I'm not going to read the article, but that's kind of awful, isn't it? Job said that he was made in the womb, and he referred to God as fashioning us in the womb, right? He goes on to say, as you know not what is the way of the spirit, nor how the bones do grow in the womb of her that is with child. Even so, you don't know the works of God who makes all. Because before I formed thee in the belly, I knew you. Before you came out of the womb, I sanctified you, and I ordained you a prophet unto the nations. Now that was that's not Job, but anyway, that's God speaking. So he had plans for someone before they were even out of the womb. Now think about that. Anyway, I mean, it's really a lot to think. It's a lot to take in. But I didn't really get into it as much as I wanted to. The point was to kind of go through this and frame it in terms of what the Lord's saying. But the biggest thing is there's just so much garbage in here, and so much doom and uncertainty and all these things. But we're told to not let our hearts be troubled. And we also see that you got this disparity between the poor that you're going to feel bad about, but then you've got these ultra wealthy that you're supposed to feel good about. Well, what's the Bible say about rich men? In James it says, "Go to now, you rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire." Now look, gold and silver, they don't rust. They don't get cankered. So what does that mean? Well, your treasures on earth do rust. Let your treasures be in heaven, So gold, which seems to be incorruptible, that's not how the Lord sees it. And that's not how it will be judged in the end, right? And we're talking about these people who are laughing and smiling now. They'll be weeping. Well, look, I'm not judging them. I'm not judging them. But as a for instance, people who seem to have the whole world weeping and howling. Think about that. That's pretty horrible, right? Anyway, so I don't know. I could go on more, but here's one. There was a certain rich man which was clothed in purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. You may have heard this before. And then there was a beggar named Lazarus who was laid at his gate. So, look at Queenie here. So outside the gate of Buckingham Palace and place like this, there's people in poverty, outside her gate, right? You could even extrapolate clothed in purple. Purple's the color of royalty. This is talking about people exactly in her position, faring sumptuously every day. Do you think she eats stuff from your local Aldi? You think she eats food that's got GMO in it? You think she eats food that's really got, you know, garbage from the grocery store in it, or is things brought in from private orchards and private gardens and all over the world, the finest foods, dine sumptuously every day, every meal. Yet there's people outside her gate wanting crumbs of that, who need crumbs of that. And lots of people like her. Let's not be like that. If we happen to prosper, it's great to be rich, but let's remember the poor. And anyway, so I'm going long here. I got to get to other things. And this was sort of a not didn't go exactly as I wanted, but maybe there was something in it for you. I hope. Thanks for your time. There's more to talk about here, a lot more actually. But anyway, so I hope that was well. I'll get in the swing of it. They'll believe me. You know what? There'll be more news tomorrow, more of the same. So for whatever failings you have here, just stay tuned. It'll get better. I won't have the same tech problem tomorrow, and I may do another one tomorrow and do it earlier. I was almost ready to go at this like 10 after 6 and didn't get started till like almost 8. So, all right, well, there'll be new stories tomorrow, very much the same. Tiger doesn't change its stripes. Okay. So make a great day and let not your heart be troubled.